Representative Pryor, would you like to move House File 1348 before the committee today with the intention of laying it over for possible inclusion in the education finance bill?
So moved, Madam Chair.
With that, Representative Tapke, I believe you have an A5 amendment. Would you like to describe the amendment, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So yes, we have an A5 amendment that is the result of work that we were doing before, and since the Education Policy Committee hearing that we had, this does a couple things. It adds some clarifications, so it adds clarifying language to make sure that this bill is referring to strictly to folks that have student contact in the classrooms, and so it adds student contact. So if someone is a bus driver but also does for the same company trucking, that the trucking piece is not included in this bill, that it is the student contact pieces that are the important. We add a formula into this bill, which I'm sure we'll talk about further as we go forward. And then lastly, it also clarifies the minimum wage pieces of things. So that's where we are at with this amendment, and I'd appreciate support.
Thank you, Representative Tapke. Members, does anybody have any questions on the amendment? With that, members, I would renew Representative Pryor's motion to put the A5 amendment on the bill. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The A5 amendment's adopted. Representative Tapke, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Chair Yukim. So we had a really great discussion in the Ed Policy Committee about this bill, and so what this does is it adds for folks that are in paras, janitors, food service workers, bus drivers, folks that are non-licensed people in the schools. It gives a minimum wage. This bill has it set at $25 an hour. It has healthcare. It has paid time for working with students to make sure that everyone has an understanding as to what the professional development sides need to be. It has paid time to prep, and also has e-learning days as paid. So right now, we've had many e-learning days from a lot of schools throughout this school year, and our hourly workers are not paid for that. And so this is a professional job that deserves to be treated that way. And so we will, that's what this bill does, is for education folks. And so at the last hearing as well, there's a lot of discussion around trust, and there's a lot of discussion around the financing of things like this, and I very much understand the concern around that. And so I just wanted to take a moment to explain further what the intent and what we hope to accomplish with this bill is that for decades in Minnesota, we have not been funding education at the levels that we feel should be funding education in the state of Minnesota. And so that has set up an unfortunate and hopefully into the future unnecessary butting of heads between teachers and between hourly workers that aren't included in that in those categories. And so there has been a scarcity that just doesn't allow those other folks to get paid what they should be in order to have it as a professional job that we all want it to be, supporting families and moving forward that way. And so with this today, we have 72 openings for paras at the Osseo School District, 14 school nutrition folks that are open positions. $16.63 an hour is what they get paid. And so you can go somewhere else and get paid $16.63 an hour really easily. And that doesn't support our kids and doesn't support our schools. Prior Lake Savage has 10 nutrition positions that are open. St. Peter has 30 bus drivers that are open there as well. And so hopefully this bill is going to be taken in the intent as to what it is meant to do, as well as the piece that I left out on the amendment is that there was a levy line item in the bill as well, that we have removed that levy line item also. So that was met with resistance, and it's not necessary to the bill, so we pulled that out. So I have, there are some testifiers. Chair, when you are ready.
Thank you, Representative Tapke. With that, we have Dave Camper. He's the first testifier on remote, and I believe he has a slideshow for us real quickly as well. Mr. Camper, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Yukim, committee members, thank you. My name is Dave Camper. I am a senior state policy coordinator for the Economic Policy Institute in DC. I've addressed this committee once before, and I appreciate the chance to do so again. I have a slideshow I'm not going to do every slide of because I want to stick to the 2 minutes, and you have copies of the slides. So I will try to move quickly through this and hit what I think is the critical series of points that we want to make about the labor market for education support professionals. First, I will start with this slide here, which shows that The height of K-12 education employment in this country was 2008. Even before the pandemic started, the country had not caught back up to pre-Great Recession levels of education employees, even though, as the dark blue line indicates, if we kept education employment up with student enrollment, we'd be 658,000 above where we were when this graph was made. Now, this is slightly out of date in some of those numbers, but the point is, K-12 public employment has collapsed in this country. And it's particularly challenging here in Minnesota. If you look at this chart here, which I tried to make as simple as I could, Minnesota's got a great labor market right now. Our unemployment rate is very low. We're frequently the lowest in the country on a month-to-month basis. We also have a very high labor force participation rate, which means how many people who are of working age are in the labor force as opposed to people who choose not to enter the labor force. It is not the case in Minnesota that no one wants to work. Lots of people want to work, more than the national average, and they are working. Those who want to work are finding jobs at near record levels in the country. That's why the third row in this chart is so significant. We have people who want jobs are finding them. They are not going to K-12 jobs. We are 6.4% down from before the pandemic compared to just 2.4% nationally. So while Minnesota's overall job picture is much better than the rest of the country, we are not finding people to fill K-12 education jobs. And I think this next slide, which I'm going to skip ahead to, demonstrates why. The weekly wages of education support professionals are far below the typical worker in this country. They are far below. That's both because their hourly wages are lower and that many of them do not work a 40-hour week. And so basic economics says when employment conditions are good, people leave a lower paying job for a higher paying job. And there's other reasons why people stay in a job. But the pay and compensation makes a significant difference. And this is the situation we face in Minnesota right now, where people who are able to find, who want to, can move to higher paying jobs. One of the biggest changes is in bus drivers, because the credential to be a bus driver allows you to take a lot of other jobs. If we do not fundamentally change the way education support professionals are compensated in Minnesota, we will never get the numbers that we need. We will never get them. And that will create problems in the long run. And that's what I wanted to talk about. And I'll let you look at the rest of the slides at your leisure. I appreciate the committee's time. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mr. Camper. Up next, we have Anna Gibson, also remote. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good morning. My name is Annie Gibson, and I thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Annie Gibson. I am a member of the Teamsters Local 320, and I work for South Washington County School District as a high needs ABC paraprofessional, and I'm here to testify in solid support of House File 1348. As an 8-year employee, I have worked with early childhood 2 to 5-year-olds, and I currently work with K through 5 age children in an ABC classroom. I am also a single mother of 2 kids, and you can't imagine how much this passing of this bill would positively impact my family's life. I struggle to make ends meet, and having health issues myself, with having school districts pay 100% of my individual premiums, or for those that need family coverage, the 85% coverage. That's a huge benefit for me. It would put extra money into my pocket to better house, clothe, and feed my own children. This bill will provide an opportunity for paraprofessionals to have paid training in a couple of different ways. First, with a new student being placed, a paraprofessional should be given paid time to review the child's IEP and time to collaborate with the teacher on what each child's goals are. Prior to the school year starting, there should be 16 hours paid training time for all paraprofessionals relating to their specific job, of which 8 hours should be time spent with their classroom teacher to prep for their students. Finally, I want to touch on the shortage that we have in this job. In order to retain people, good people, there needs to be livable wages and better working benefits. I absolutely love my job, not only for the people that I work with, but my kids. Every day I work to make a difference in their lives. These children depend on us every day. They look for us every day. They need us every day. A couple of weeks ago, I was actually out sick for 3 days. And when I returned, every one of my kids came up to me and hugged me and tell me how much they missed me. Now, keep in mind, some of my kids in my special ed classroom are not usually the type that hug other people. So it was kind of a big deal and it made me a little bit emotional. Our children with IEPs are so much more successful when they have consistency in staffing. I love my kids and I look forward to seeing them every day. I take pride in my relationship with each child, and I love being a part of the child's growth in education and social emotional well-being. We need to make this profession people see out and stay for a very long time. This legislation would be a great start. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Gibson, and yes, that consistency is so very important, especially in the line of paraprofessional, having subs come in constantly because you're still having open positions. I had to chuckle. I forgot to block off my time this month for subbing. And just watching the numbers, every 30 minutes, I'm getting a call or there's an opening. And when I go and look on Teachers on Call, they're not just, oh, you're subbing for this person or you're subbing for that person. It says open position. And that open position means there's somebody different with those kids every single day. And consistency is a premium when we're working with some of our kids. So I just had to take a little editorial time there. Sorry. Next up, we have Sarah Rapp and then Carolyn Long on deck. Go ahead and state your name for the record. and proceed.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Sarah Rapp. I have been a cook at the Hastings High School for 4 years. I'm a proud member of the SEIU Local 284. I am part of the Hastings Food Service workers who, as of today, have been on strike for 1 month for our push for a fair contract for the workers who feed our students. Unfortunately, our district won't come to the bargaining table to reach a fair deal with us, which means students are eating cold lunches and we are missing seeing the kids that we care about so much. For example, this past weekend, I work at the high school and the boys took home the wrestling state champs and we weren't there and it's kind of a bummer. This bill, the ESP Bill of Rights, would make it much less likely the staff like me would have to strike for basic things like higher wages and getting paid on e-learning days. One of the big reasons I am on strike is that our wages are way too low. I've worked there 4 years, I make $15.05 an hour and don't get close to 40 hours per week. It's hard to get by on these wages as a single mom. $25 per hour would be a gigantic change for so many people. It would mean we could take care of ourselves and our families with the same care and compassion we take care of our students. And it isn't just that. If we don't see changes, even more people will leave this work. We consistently have been multiple openings during my entire employment. At one point, we had 3 people doing the job of 8 people. The ESP Bill of Rights would cover a lot of important issues, but another big one for our group is making sure hourly workers get paid on e-learning days. Right now, we don't get paid on e-learning days, and unlike snow days, these do not get made up at the end of the year. That means hourly workers like us, who already are paid at the least in the school, have to take another financial hit because of something we have no control over. Passing the ESP Bill of Rights, raising wages, and making sure our jobs are treated with respect we deserve would allow me and my son some wiggle room. It would mean my job is treated with the respect it deserves. Our strike shows that we are facing a crisis. It isn't just us, it's school workers across the state. Please pass this bill. Our strike shows the crisis facing school workers because of the low wages and disrespect we are facing. We need to fix this before the staffing crisis gets worse so we can focus on what we do best, caring for our students. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Carolyn Long, please. Settle and state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee. My name is Caroline Long. I am a special education teacher with Minneapolis Public Schools, a school board member with the Robbinsdale School District, and a parent of a student who receives special education assistance supports. I'm here to testify about the Educational Support ESP Bill of Rights, House File 1348, and the critical role that ESPs have in the development, implementation, and support of our students who receive special education services. As a special education teacher, ESPs have played the role of supporting, implementing behavior plans and goals, and collecting data on students on my caseload. But more importantly, they've played the role of connecting students who receive their support to their well-being, education, and a sense of belonging to the larger community in the school. ESPs are the ones who support students through their struggles with academics, study skills, and social emotional skills. ESPs are there for students' struggles and students' small successes. Without ESPs, students I work with would miss out on having a school experience that is similar to their non-disabled peers and learning lifelong skills that help them to be independent. As a parent, I have witnessed the confidence and comfort ESPs have provided to my child to persist in a task and stay in a class. I can note the successful years my child had in school on a consistent ESP. Like the students I teach, my child struggled with school when they could not keep a consistent ESP due to wages that the ESPs were being paid. As a school board member, I see how funds are directed in ways that do not impact student growth and development. Because trained employees is expensive, and therefore the support from the state through this dedicated funding will help district control costs better. ESPs add so much to students, the teachers, and the educational system. But ESPs are not given the training, support, pay, or respect to want to continue with the job. With the increasing cost of healthcare and other living expenses and the low wages they receive, it becomes a struggle for them to do the job that they love and provide for their family. I am asking that you support the ESP Bill of Rights, House File 1348. Having their wages start at ESPs should have their wages start at $25 an hour, which would ensure that they could work one job because one job should be enough. Like every other employee in the school building, they should also be paid during e-learning days. They should have access to affordable health care. Due to the low wages some of these employees make, they walk away with nothing in their paycheck due to their low pay and the high cost of health care. These investments in ESPs will help keep the same caring ESPs in my classroom and in our schools year in and year out. This is a retention issue. Again, I appreciate your support for the ESP Bill of Rights, House File 1314, for our children and their best outcomes.
Thank you so much, board member and teacher. Next up, we've got some folks from the public signed up to testify. I have Mary Ann Thompson and Tim Caskey. Why don't you come up at the same time, and then we'll save the transit time. Go ahead, Mary Ann Thomas, state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am Mary Ann Thomas. I serve as the Director of Human Resources with the Farmington Area School District, and I've been in public education HR for 29 years. I'm here to testify today on behalf of school boards and superintendents on one concern regarding one aspect of House File 1348. The proposed legislation in its current form requires full pay and benefits for weather-related e-learning days this school year. Most school districts, and I've worked in 3, but I have, as a president of the school personnel associations, I talk with many of my colleagues in schools. Most school districts have negotiated some form of compensation for the employees, ranging from working from home on such e-learning days, performing normal responsibilities, engaging in valuable professional development, making up the time doing other meaningful work on non-school days before or after school, or even after the school year concludes. Some of our employees in Farmington have chosen to make up those hours, but most have chosen not to. Many of our staff work in community education programs, and parents have already been reimbursed for these e-learning days when their children were not able to attend daycare, participate in activities and such. Yet this bill would propose that the employees there who chose not to work still get paid, even though no revenue is coming in for those days. The cost of this legislation in Farmington this year alone is $280,000. We are proposing $3 million in reduction for 23-24 school year, despite the governor's proposal on funding. That's 3.5 teachers we won't be able to save, 3.5 counselors, teachers, mental health support workers. We believe that this bill should at least be modified to allow the payment of hours for e-learning days based on performing meaningful work on the day or making up that meaningful work. Or at a minimum, at a minimum, to exclude employees in the community ed program who are in parent-paid programs. I thank you for listening to me today and considering my thoughts on this one aspect of House File 1348.
Thank you. Next up, we have Tim Caskey. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Tim Caskey. I am the Executive Director of Human Resources with ISD 728, which is the 8th largest school district in the state. I'm here to talk about the specifics of the $25 an hour minimum wage that is addressed in the bill. I first want to start by saying we believe in a competitive wage, but we believe that that competitive wage should be a product of the market as well as the collective bargaining process. When we look at this bill and we look at the minimum wage, we project that the increase to our district will be $3.4 million. And that increase will be affected in 3 primary areas. It is part of our community education, which would increase by $1.1 million, primarily in our childcare areas. What that means is, because this is a fee-based program, we will have to raise the fees for parents so we can provide childcare. That estimated raise in fees would make us the highest childcare provider in our area and essentially take us out of that market. The second is in our food service area, which we project would be a $452,000 increase. Although the state is proposing to pay for meals, that does not include the à la carte part of what is provided to students. Those items would have to also be increased. And then there is the general fund, which is a $1.7 million increase. That increase would have to come from other parts of the district. So to put this in perspective, the $1.1 million in community ed is the equivalent of 25 childcare workers. The $1.7 million in our general fund is the equivalent of 17 social workers, counselors, intervention specialists that we could have in the classroom. And finally, there are costs not accounted for in the bill. If the wage is a minimum of $25, then we will have to adjust our longevity steps. Our contracts are currently structured to provide longevity increases for a number of years. Those would have to increase also, which is not projected as part of it. I thank you for taking this into consideration and for your time.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Mary Burrows. And then on deck, I believe we have Scott McMohan, so if you could come up too. Sorry, McMahon. Go ahead, state your name for the record and proceed.
My name is Mary Burrows. I'm the Executive Director of Human Resources for Bloomington Public Schools, and I've been in public education for about 13 years. I'm here on behalf of Minnesota's school boards and superintendents, and first want to thank you for the time-consuming work that you are doing and for listening to our concerns. I am before you today to speak about the proposed insurance premium proposal in the bill and increase. I believe there are ways to support employees and their families, and we want to do that. But without significant, substantial, ongoing financial support, This will be an overwhelming cost to districts as they absorb the proposed increase, as well as higher than usual insurance renewals that are occurring currently because of COVID the past 2 years. Additionally, more employees may join our plan as public plans become more attractive than private industry plans, adding to district costs. In Bloomington, at a minimum, this item would cause an increase of around 4 to 6 million the next 2 years if plan renewal costs didn't increase and our membership in the plan remained the same. Impact to classroom and programming will occur in the 24-25 school year since our staffing and programming budget for 23-24 has been established. This means very steep cuts the following school year, such as cuts to tenured and probationary teachers, support staff, mental health support for students, change of teaming school models, and less classroom support for EL learners and student activities. If districts are no longer allowed to levy for the cost, then we need 100% state aid. Without permanent funding increases, either in support of this bill or other educational costs, such as an increase to formula, this additional cost, both monetary and decrease of staff, will be extremely difficult to implement. And I thank you for your time to listen.
Thank you so much. Next up, Scott McMahon. Go ahead, state your name for the record so I can pronounce it right finally, and proceed.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, thank you for this opportunity. Scott McMahon with Flaherty and Hood here today on behalf of our client, the Minnesota School Bus Operators Association. We are the contractors who contract for about 60% of the bus routes across the state. I do want to thank Representative Tabke for the amendment he brought forward today. The bill is in a better shape than it was an hour ago. It's still not perfect, but it's moving in the right direction. A few things that we want to comment for the record with this language at this point. First is with regards to the $25 an hour minimum wage for contractors and the language around employees who are performing the services under this contract. We have situations where we have businesses that are providing school transportation, they're providing motor coach transportation, they're providing trucking transportation, and some of these employees intersect those business areas. And so we're hoping we can get clarification as to, to what level do those people need to be designated on those contracts. If it's 20% on the bus side, but 80% on the trucking side, is that who we're looking at impacting from this standpoint? We also want to be in the record to just identify the fact that this can present cost pressures within contracts. As you know, school districts have limited funds to invest in their various levels of operation. One of the concerns we have is that if we have to allocate more money onto the wage side of the contract, that those funds will come out of funds that we're trying to make available for investments in new school buses, safety initiatives like that. So we just want to raise that one. We do also have concern just about the way that the bill is worded, that it seems to put the onus on the contractors to pay the employees this level, but doesn't necessarily put the onus on the school districts to acknowledge the total costs that need to come into play here. With regards to lines 1.10, 1.11 on the amendment, I've talked with a number of our operators, and we do training every year on how to deal with student behavior. I haven't found an operator yet who believes that we need 16 hours of training to make that happen. And so some sort of flexibility within the contract side to acknowledge what our actual training needs are would be appreciated. In addition, just not knowing exactly who we're identifying as needing the training. So if I'm a bus mechanic, I'm working the shop, I'm servicing the contract, but I'm not engaging with students at all, do we need to have those types of people go through mandatory training for services that they're not going to be providing? And then lastly, the provisions on 112 through 113 on the amendment. We appreciate the acknowledgement about the impact that contractors have on snow days. Right now, we receive revenue from the districts in the majority of our contracts for days in which services are provided. And so at 5 o'clock in the morning, when our operators are told that it's a snow day, that we're not driving, we have to inform our drivers that they're not working that day. At the same time, in the majority of cases, we're not getting revenue from the school district those days. So if we are choosing to pay our drivers for those days, that's coming out of the operator's pocket, not out of the school district's pocket. So we appreciate that there's some clarification around here that there is some level of expectation that districts need to provide the resources for those drivers to be paid on those snow days. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. With that, members, I think we'll move to the table for any questions or comments. Representative Altendorf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative Tapke. I have a lot of questions, and some of them is when you were drafting this bill, there is no fiscal note, attached with this. Were you aware of what some of the people were being paid for these positions, like paraprofessionals, and then in the lunch capacity?
Representative Tapke.
Madam Chair, Representative Altendorf, yes.
Representative Altendorf, follow-up?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I talked to several superintendents, and I have talked to principals and superintendents regarding your bill. And there is a drastic difference perhaps in the metro from the rural. I'm not sure of why there's such a disconnect here. In my district, many people are being paid $15 an hour. And to raise that to $25 an hour, a small school, and I'm talking a very, very small school, your bill would cost one school $700,000 in increased employment for their salary, $300,000 for their insurance. And if this was pushed through as a mandate, as you're proposing, we are in a year where we have a surplus, and this would be a very, very scary situation for schools to be able to fund this in the future. I just heard 4 people testify against your bill. And I hope everyone on this committee is listening to the testifiers, because having that many people testify against a bill truly speaks volumes and should be giving us all at least enough hesitation to reevaluate this bill as it's written. This would be devastating to the rural districts, and correlation is not causation. So when I heard one of the testifiers say, that people are not all paid the same, or they're paid at part-time, well, there are schools that people actually prefer that. There are parents that prefer to work part-time while their children are at school. And so you are pushing a mandate on a school district that I don't think it would have a lot of unintended consequences. And if the governor proposed, the 4% and the 2% general fund increases, when I am talking to people in my district who continually say, and I'm talking about teachers and principals and superintendents, and they say one of their biggest problems is us pushing mandates on our school districts, and then they're not funded. This would be a crisis to push a mandate on these school districts, and then in 2 years, we're going to hear these school districts are not able to fund these. I really hope every person that signed your name onto this bill takes your name off of this bill. This is not a good bill.
Representative Tapke.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Representative Altendorf. I obviously couldn't disagree with you more. All throughout the summer, talking to folks, I ran into dozens and dozens of paras, janitors, bus drivers, lunch workers that are struggling and are really struggling. And as a state, I believe we should be valuing that work. Like, these are really good jobs that are available in our schools. And so some things that the 4 folks that testified against the bill, there was a significant amount of, I don't know exactly what word to use on it, but it's just not accurate. So the bill what will happen is, and there are things that we also obviously need to work about. So as we work through, so as we're going through this bill and it gets laid over, I will still be continuing to be open and available to anybody to talk through things and figure out where we go with some things that are concerning. But this bill is, the way it is set forward today, will be 100%, it's not an unfunded mandate, it will be paid for above and beyond the formula. So this is not going to result in any teachers getting cut, any childcare workers getting cut, anyone that direction getting cut, because it will be funded as it goes forward. There'll be changes that have to come with it, obviously. But what you're saying is wrong, along the fact that I very much value, these workers in our schools, and they're huge parts of our communities, and the money will be rolling to the school districts as part of this funding, as you see the formula that's in there today. So thank you for your concerns and your questions about it, and happy to talk further as we go forward.
Representative Padilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to start by giving a shout out to our food service worker from Hastings that took the time to come up and testify today. Really, really tough spot in Hastings right now. We need to give those guys a bump, and I've been in regular communication with Superintendent McDowell, and I'm looking forward to a meeting coming up in my office with the union. Hopefully we can get to an agreement soon, because nobody's winning in my hometown right now on that. So thanks for taking the time to come up and testify. That said, this bill is not the answer, and I'm not gonna speak to the cost because we don't have the fiscal note. I'm gonna talk to just a couple of high-level things for it. It's very concerning to me if we as a legislature through a bill like this are gonna take away collective bargaining. This bill essentially says the unions can go to the majority for something that they're not able to get through collective bargaining and legislate it. It's killing that process, and eventually I think that comes around and it ends up being bad for the majority at some point as well, if we're killing that collective bargaining process. The other thing that really bugs me too, I'm working closely with long-term care and some crisis that we have there. Is the state just gonna start setting new minimum wage for different career fields? I know a lot of CNAs, a lot of nursing staff, there's other professions out there, law enforcement, all kinds of things that could probably come here and put a pretty good argument on the table to say, hey, we deserve a bump, our healthcare isn't right. And I don't know, unless the majority is gonna put together a rainbow omnibus, we're resetting minimum wage for every career field. I just think this is a really, really dangerous slope to go on. And I would urge a no vote on this.
Thank you. Representative Tapke, quick follow-up, and then I've got a few people on the list.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Representative Padilla, I very much understand where you're coming from. And I think we all need to recognize that this bill is a result of scarcity in funding our education system. Our education system has not been funded adequately for decades. And so we need this, where this is coming from is a result of scarcity. It has pushed our school districts. It's not the district's fault. Everybody's scrambling for every single dollar that they can get in order to pay their people and do good work to take care of our kids. This is coming forward because of scarcity in our education. We need to make sure that we are fixing that as we go forward now in Minnesota.
Thank you, Representative Tapke. Representative Greenman.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Tapke. And I don't know, Representative Padilla, if you're talking about wanting to work on a new minimum wage bill, but I am interested in that. And so I do think our current minimum wage is not keeping up with any workers in any industry. And so I know that that's not the issue you're raising, but I just heard that. This is a really important bill. Thank you, Representative Tapke, for bringing it, for working on it. Thank you for the folks in this room. I see many that I know and probably many that I don't. We have heard in this committee and in workforce and the importance of these workers, of these educators, of these food service workers and caring adults. And this is a bill that actually honors that. You know, I'm working on the unemployment insurance piece, but this is a holistic bill that I think fits right alongside that. This morning I had ESPs from schools in my district, from Justice Page Elementary School, from Washburn High School, talking about how much they loved their students, how they love their jobs, and also asking us, really pleading with us to be able to provide them with what they need to continue doing that job. which is both the wages that are competitive, but they talked a lot about the staffing shortage and retention crisis with their colleagues. The unfilled positions, the turnover, low wages, unaffordable healthcare, insufficient time to do the training and the work that they need to do makes it really hard for folks to continue doing this work. And we heard the same stories when the Hastings, a lot of the Hastings workers were up here a couple of weeks ago, just to tell their stories. I've heard it from Bloomington, I've heard it from across the state as I've been doing other work. This is negatively impacting our kids. What I heard about was students who needed stability. We know that we have right now a mental health crisis. We need staff who are building relationships, and we have a turnover because folks can't keep jobs. They don't have the stability. They're going other places, and so it's hard when I think we hear testifiers who sort of make this implication that we can't afford this because it's taking money out of the classroom. These workers are the classroom. These workers are the ones who are providing frontline work, whether it's direct care to a one-on-one with folks with disabilities, whether it's providing a fresh meal or a pathway to work, so when to school. So I just think this is an investment in the classroom, in the things that we know directly impacts kids' education, as well as being just the right thing to do for these workers. So I really appreciate it. I appreciate the folks who have told their stories. And I think this actually has to be an investment that I think that the majority, and I hope we all will make in ensuring that our kids get what they need and our schools have the support they need. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Greenman. Members, I just want to give a note too, we have got less than 10 minutes left for this bill because we still have one more on the agenda, but Representative Anderson.
I'll be very quick. I just want to echo Representative Padela's comments. This bill, not only does it undermine, collective bargaining, which I'm really surprised to see, I guess, from your side of the aisle, but it also does nothing, I think, about dealing with the labor force. We have a shortage in every industry. I would say the worst one is in long-term care. But we have a lot less people working, whether it's through demographics or just choosing not to work as much, and it's affecting every single industry. Trying to prop up, certain things through dictating and mandating higher wages within one thing and not within another is just going to distort the market even more, and that's what I see here. It's also if there's a belief that we're underfunding education, then we should be looking at the formula and allowing the administrators and the school boards to make decisions about where they need to put dollars to deal with any issues in any particular job category that they have, rather than attempting to dictate wages from the state, literally from the state. It's incredible. On certain job categories, so thank you.
Thank you, and I have to apologize, because of time, we didn't get to go through the whole slideshow, but I suggest folks look at that. In Minnesota, we actually have 5% more than the United States average on folks in the workplace, but education is where we're struggling. It's less that we're under the performance in the US, so I don't know if it's that much about people not wanting to be in here. I think in this case, it's probably about the pay. With that, I've got Hill, Clardy, and then Creasha, and then we're wrapping. So Representative Hill.
Thank you, Chair Joachim, and really appreciate it, Representative Tapke, for bringing this bill. Due to the scarcity of time, I'll be very, very brief, but just want to echo what Representative Greenman said a few moments ago, that we have incredible servants who have come here today to speak to us. And these are our colleagues who serve as paraprofessionals. It certainly includes our cafeteria staff. It includes our bus drivers. It includes our administrative colleagues as well, and the concerns that they bring. The question comes down to, how can we afford to do the right thing here? And I think what I wanted to echo and highlight from Representative Greenman's comments is, how can we afford to not take care of the folks who are on the front line serving our kids? As the son of a paraprofessional who was held 1/10 of an hour below the threshold to get insurance covered by by her employer, I recognize what happens when we operate in a scarcity model. And unfortunately, it seems that repeatedly, certain groups, certain employee groups, certain individuals tend to be the ones who hold the bag when we don't do right by supporting and strategically investing in our kids through our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Hill. Representative Clardy.
This will be really brief, but I'm speaking my truth. And to me, this is deeply rooted in some of the systemic issues that Minnesota has been trying to resolve, because a lot of the populations that would be included in these groups as far as employment would be highly affected, and that's a lot of the BIPOC community. So I just needed to speak my truth, and I'm just putting it out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Clardy. And last up, Minority Leader Kresha.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Tafke, for bringing this forward. I'll just, broad comments are, as I think about this, I mean, I understand many of the things that have brought this bill forward, and I think that it doesn't matter who's in power, people try to sway things one way or the other based on stories and things that are happening. I just would caution us as a legislature and as a committee that, you know, I just was reading an article today, Paul Krugman is saying, I have no idea where this economy is going. This is why. We are trying to control things that we probably aren't gonna be best at controlling at in this committee, and we're creating levels of uncertainty that nobody has any ideas. We heard a bill earlier today where 3 school districts are saying our costs went through the roof because of inflation and all this. This is the reason. I'm not saying what's happening in Hastings or other districts. They need to resolve these. They absolutely need to resolve these. But if we continue to add layers of uncertainty, I mean, the thing that scares me the most is I don't know where this can land. I look at where we have targets and we have things to come. We have impossible situations for a very difficult job for our chair here, and if this doesn't land where either one of these sides in the strike want, then they're gonna have to come back to the table. And they're gonna have to come back to the table with tools they may not have. And so every time we wade into these waters and we overshadow local control situations, we put one side with larger amounts of hope than the other side has tools. Those uncertainties are equating to higher costs. They're the reason the Fed has no idea what level to get to for interest rates. These are the reasons that we are creating for people's pensions and not knowing where retirement's coming and all this. And I caution us to take a step back from that. There are things that we can control, there are things that we can't control in a finance budget, and there are things we can help schools with. But at the end of the day, people are going to have to resolve things that are related to them locally. And so I just would caution us. Thank you, Representative Tapke, for doing this and other bills that we're seeing, but I would caution us from trying to become the state school board because we will fail at that, and that would be my caution. So good luck with your bill.
Thank you, Representative Kresha. Representative Tapke, final word.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I appreciate you hearing this bill and helping to move to something that will help families in Minnesota. This is a massive, massive issue throughout the state, where it used to be that we had lots and lots of folks working in lots of parents working in our school district to fill those needs. That just doesn't happen anymore because we have jobs that don't pay enough to keep folks. And so it's a great, great job for parents, for working parents, for our BIPOC community, for everyone who can take and drop kids off at school. They can work through the day, they can pick up kids at the end of the day. And this is a childcare issue, this is an equity issue, and so I just look forward to continue to work on this. So I want to reiterate that anybody who has issues and wants to continue working on this as it goes forward, before it gets hopefully put in the finance bill at the end of the day, that I am absolutely willing and wanting to continue. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Tapke. With that, I'll move that House File 1348 as amended. Well, I will lay over 1348 as amended for possible inclusion in an education finance bill.